Hello, this is Lisa Phillips, and welcome to AffordableRealEstateInvestments.com. It's where I give you an honest and practical guide to real estate investing at a price you can afford. Today's guest, I'm extremely excited to say, is Aaron Kinney. He is a blogger that I met on Bigger Pockets, but he does something that I do that we're very hopeful to start spreading the word about to other people. He invests in mobile homes, and a lot of his homes are under the price of $30,000. He started doing this one by one on his own and in partnership with his father, but now is doing it full time. He himself has found a bit of resistance when talking about it when he says the word mobile home, just like when I say working class neighborhoods. People sort of look at us like we're a little bit crazy, but uh, you'll shall see that we're not as crazy as we are. We just aren't doing what the mainstream's doing. But then again, that's why it's so lucrative, because no one's doing it or no one's talking about it until now. And we'll talk about that later. So, Aaron Kinney, thank you for coming on this program. I highly appreciate it. I'm glad you were able to meet me halfway on this.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me, Lisa. I appreciate it.
Good. So, would you like to tell everyone who you are and what you do full time now?
Yeah, my name's Aaron. I guess I'm a full-time mobile home investor. Spend most of my time looking for more properties to buy and kind of managing what we already have. So that's a good bit. It doesn't take too much time, but that's pretty much what my business looks like right now. So.
So, you're buy and hold?
We are to an extent we sell our homes on rent to owns, so the end goal is that our tenant buyer will pay it off after 13 to 15 years on average. So they're buy and hold until they're sold. It's kind of the way that we look at it. So.
So, how soon do you get like the complete return on investments? I have other questions I want to ask, but I just want to follow up. So, like, you put 15,000 in or 20,000. When does that, how many years does it take to turn that full investment around?
Mhm. Um, it's I would say on average it's about 3 years.
Oh, not
Um,
bad.
yeah. We collect about $600 a month in revenue. So we're looking to get our money out of it in 3 years. That's kind of a good solid average deal for us. We lately we've had some better ones, but that's kind of a solid deal, kind of our starting point deal. So
So, if you hold it for 13 years, after year three, it's pure profit?
that's correct. That's
Oh,
correct.
gosh, that's amazing. Those numbers are fantastic.
Yeah, they're pretty good. Most of our debt is short term as well. They're lines of credit and personal loans.
Ooh.
Most for 5 years or less. So yeah, the kind of the goal is to get all that short term debt paid off, and then we'll be cash flowing pretty well. So
We are going to get into that so heavily because financing these deals is the biggest questions on new real estate investors' minds. And to be quite honest, I've been doing this for a few years, but I am curious to know what you do to see if I can use some of those strategies.
absolutely, yeah. With mobile homes, it's become very tough with all the loans that went bad in the real estate market in 2008 and all that. The mobile homes, those loans went bad too. That was a lot of the subprime lending. So most banks don't want to do it. When I tell when I tell a bank that I'm looking for a loan and I'm an investor for a mobile home property, 99% of the time they're going to tell me no.
I don't like banks. I go to credit unions and then other mortgage entities after that.
That's correct. Yeah, and that's one of the few banks that we've gotten a loan from is a local credit union,
Yeah.
but even the other 99% of those don't want to do it. So
Okay.
they just they kind of want the straight lace government insured loans. So
Okay.
um,
So the audience, you got to stay tuned if you want to get to this good stuff. But right now, we're just going to talk. I'm going to ask Aaron about how he got into real estate investing because I know a lot of you guys are sort of, you've made the decision, but I think it always helps to hear someone else who's in your same place, how they came to this decision and succeeded where they have. So why and when did you decide real estate investing was the way to go? And then how did you go into mobile home investing? Because most people think Go buy in a good neighborhood, pay it, try to make as much cash flow you want, but in good neighborhoods you might not make any, and then but it appreciates in 20 years and you can sell it for retirement. So you didn't go that route. So how did you get involved in real estate investing? And
Yeah. I guess my start was when I was my junior year of college. I was in a personal finance class, and I think there's just a discussion about tax liens. There's tax lien investing, and I really started researching that heavily for a few months, and it really kind of opened my eyes up to all the different avenues of real estate investing. It's not just for people that have a bunch of money. There's so many different routes you can go, and that kind of segued me into mobile homes. I came across Lonnie Scruggs' information about mobile home investing. He's got some books. Deals on Wheels is kind of his most famous one, and that book really opened my eyes. His kind of his main business model was buying a mobile home for a couple $1,000s and then selling it on terms to an end buyer, to make a quick profit and get your money back as quickly as possible. And being a college student, that really appealed to me. I didn't have a lot of money, so that was a way for me to get started. And yeah, I just began to really research heavily mobile homes and kind of jump in with both feet. So,
who was this
uh,
author and the book again?
yeah, it's Lonnie Scruggs is his name. His main book is Deals on Wheels. He's got a couple other ones out there too, but it's a really quick read. I recommend it for anybody, even if you're not going to invest in mobile homes. He's got some good information just about managing finances and stuff like that. It really kind of opened my eyes to the fact that if you just had enough money coming in each month, you didn't have to necessarily work a job. So if you just get enough money to pay all your bills, that was good enough. So I never thought about that before. So that was a neat concept.
The other part of it is if you have the revenue coming in, you're good. But if you work it right, you can get your own very low priced property to live in full time. And that might seem a little crazy to some, but it is nice not having a huge mortgage either if you can figure out how to work it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, and that's what we've done. My wife and I, we bought a just kind of 3-bedroom starter home in a nice area a couple years when we first got married, and uh, then recently, a few months ago, we decided to move out to the country, and I had a lead on a mobile home and land property, and we both liked it and wanted to move out to the country. And obviously we like being here, but we also like cutting our living expenses, and we're also renting our previous home for a profit, so that's kind of a nice little swing of income. So
So can you explain mobile home with land? That's what you purchase to live in versus just the mobile home. And it may seem obvious, but I think it's always helpful to just be really detailed and clear about what we're talking about.
no, it's definitely good to get that explained. Mobile home investing is typically just investing in a mobile home. So typically these are found in parks where the park owner owns the land, and the mobile home owner is renting the land from them. So the investor is he's renting the land from the park owner, and then selling the home or renting the home to an end buyer. Versus mobile homes with land, the land is private land. Tends to be just like investing in any other single family home. You own the land and you own the home. I guess kind of the best way to
Do you,
describe that.
do you prefer one over the other, or do you diversify your strategy? And if you do, why?
Yeah, I definitely prefer mobile homes with land. For one, I feel like we have one of the best products at this price range. People, for about the same amount of money, people can live on private land, have some privacy, and own their own home, and versus renting in a mobile home park. Um, I also think it's a good idea to invest in mobile home parks as well. We just got started doing that, but I think mobile home investing, your numbers can look better. You just don't have as much control when you don't own the land. That park owner could tell you to leave town or whatever, or escalate the rent high. You don't have as much control. So it just kind of all
Right.
depends, for
And what area are you investing in with these good returns? And
Yeah, we're in South Carolina, in the Columbia, South Carolina area, kind of all around the middle part of the state. So we're kind of expanded across a few counties, but yeah, kind of locally right around there. So
So tell us about your start. You read the books and you researched it. So was there a level of fear and trepidation, or were you like, no, it was explained so well in this book you read, you're ready to go and put it into action? Or can you tell me a little bit about that?
yeah, I'd say the main thing, I jumped in with both feet, and a lot of that was probably being 21 and
Oh,
just,
seriously.
yeah, it's just not being all that smart and
We're
just kind of,
optimistic.
yeah, very optimistic. The books that got me pumped up. I read other real estate books, and I was pumped. Um, so I had bought a home and moved it onto somebody else's land that they owned, and was owner financing the home to them, which is a very difficult strategy. I found these people on Craigslist and kind of emotionally wanted to help them, and that's when you get in trouble, is when you get emotional. And, so it was a good learning lesson, and actually I've got my money back out of it, and actually getting to where I'm making a little bit of profit. But for a while there, I bought it sight unseen. I did just about everything wrong that you're supposed to do with buying real estate and buying mobile homes in particular. And luckily, just the purchase price was low. I think we spent $8,000 on the home, and uh, 3 or 4 thousand on the move and setup, and then a few $1,000s on the air conditioner. So I think I had about 15,000 in it, which is a
Wow.
lot for one home and moving it and all that. So, but it was a
That's a
good
lot.
learning experience.
That's a
Yeah,
lot in
yeah.
mobile home investing.
It was a lot. It was pretty much all the money I had in my name. It
Yeah,
was,
been there
yeah,
before.
it was kind of crazy. But after doing that and realizing all the headaches of dealing with just a home and not owning the land, I realized I really wanted to own the home with the land. And I could see on the market, I could you could buy these land and home together for about $20,000. And there was, without, I guess that there was quite a few on the market. There was quite a bit of supply at the time. This was at the end of 2011. um, Nope. Yep. So that was kind of the end of that first deal. So
Could you briefly tell us a little? You said you made a mistake on your first. Can you sort of briefly go through the dynamics of what happened? And then I want to go into the others, but I think it's just as important to learn about what not to do as what you can do.
yeah, absolutely. And just to kind of like throw this out there, I do have a couple books that are out there, and I kind of outline this a little bit better as far as the mistakes that I made, but
Okay.
I'll try to go through it. So if I forget something, it's probably in there. But anyway,
Okay. We'll make sure we link to it at the end too.
okay, appreciate it. Yeah, with the first deal, let's see. I guess it was once I had an agreement with these people that I was going to move a certain type of home over to their land. That's kind of the main first step where it all started. And so I was planning on doing that. So it was a matter of finding a home. They had mentioned that they had seen a home or heard about a home with a North Carolina dealer, and he was asking $8,000 for it. And I thought, well, shoot, I'm owner financing this home for, I don't know, it was $20,000 or so. So I kind of knew like what I was already making, and just kind of without seeing the home, I kind of thought, well, I have a good feeling that no matter how much work is needed with the home, I should have a good bit of wiggle room. And that's the problem with assuming, even with buying from a dealer. The well, I guess let me first not jump ahead. So I bought this home sight unseen, wired the money to a dealer,
Oh, wow.
and took the money. And I was under the impression, we talked about him helping me move it. What I didn't realize is the mover that he had that moved his homes, he didn't really work for him. He just kind of contracted some homes, and he was incredibly difficult to get a hold of. He rarely returned my calls. That really opened up my eyes to how bad the mobile home mover industry is. As far as contractors go, they got to be some of the lowest, just in general. But anyway, after this was months. I mean, I had had this home sitting on private land, and I couldn't move it. I couldn't get a hold of this guy, and then the movers that were local to me, they weren't very good either. They didn't have a license to go to North Carolina and South Carolina, or I didn't return my phone calls. They just didn't do what they said they were going to do. When I arranged meetings, they didn't show up.
Oh,
It
wow.
took a lot of phone calls and just a lot of promises that people made, and they never held up. And it was probably 4 months after I bought it until we finally got it moved, with a mover that was from North Carolina, and he moved it, and we got it set up.
What are the costs for something like that?
Um, this was a higher cost move because of the distance and cross state lines. I think it was about $4,000 with the moving and the setting up of the home.
Okay.
Now hooking up the utilities, and this was also single wides. So single wides are not nearly as expensive to move as double wides. And let's see.
So they do the connections. You said they do the utility connections during this. This cost is all inclusive.
This was not. This was just the move and the setting up of the home, putting the
Okay.
blocks into the home and the things like that.
So it's stable and you can
Mhm.
walk on it. Okay.
That's correct. Yeah, my end buyer was going to be responsible for the hookup of the utilities. The problem is my end buyer had changed at this point. She had, she needed somewhere to go, and this took up so much time that I had to let her out of her contract.
Okay.
So I was kind of stuck with a home, didn't have a buyer, and I hadn't seen it at this point. And let's see, I met with a family member of this buyer. The family member had agreed to take the home. We'd move it to their land, which was right across the street. So that's what we ended up doing. So they ended up seeing it sight unseen as well, or owning it sight unseen. And I really owe them a lot, because if they had backed out at that point, I would have been in a lot more trouble.
Yeah.
There were times, during that deal where I was ready to just write off the home, just, as an $8,000 lesson. It was just really frustrating, but just kind of despite all that, I wanted to keep going, and I knew that, I made a ton of mistakes, and I did a lot of stuff that I shouldn't have, and so I just kept going at that point. We bought our first mobile home and land property. That was my second property in total in October, which was actually right about the same time that we had moved this first home. I bought the second one with my dad. He had decided to invest with me and to finance it. He had a home equity line of credit that we used to finance it. Which are those home equity lines of credits are pretty good. I definitely recommend those if you can. Interest rates are really low. Terms tend to be long as well, so it allows you to be pretty flexible with your monthly payments. That's about it for our first couple.
So your father, was he able to give you the full loan, the full purchase amount? And what were the price like? And how long did it take to find a buyer? And are most mobile home people tending to be rent to buy? Can you tell me a little bit about that market and the people that you encounter in the market and what their expectations are?
Yeah, kind of answering that your last question first.
Sure.
The rent to own it's highly in demand right now.
Okay.
In this area, for your lower income tenants, most of them have credit issues, but they work stable jobs. There's a lot that fit that criteria, and so they really can't buy any other way. They're forced to rent. So the rent to own is there's just so much demand for it, and it allows us to, most of the homes that we sell, they're structurally sound, but they have cosmetic issues. They might need new carpet in different areas, or they need paint, or just kind of simple things like that most people can do. That's kind of that's a great thing about doing rent to owns, is there's just so many people out there willing to do some work. So to have the opportunity to own.
So it's not hard to find someone. Do you put just the for rent sign or do you go online? How do you get the word out?
Mhm. I'd started doing signs in the beginning, and I think they work. I've just gotten lazy. We have enough people online. I got a website, and I track people with email leads, or people can sign up by email, and so I'll send them new listings whenever we have them, and then we go Craigslist, and we got Facebook, and post lists that kind of syndicates to all the real estate websites. And so really online does it for us. Typically we can fill our homes in a week, or if they're in strong areas. Sometimes we'll be a little bit longer, a couple weeks, if we're in a little bit more rural areas. But
So a
yeah,
couple weeks for a rural area, but if it's in like the city, it's like a few days.
that's right. Well, yeah, and even like the areas that we're in are still rural, but the school districts are so strong. There's just such a high demand for it.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, we typically we have a couple of bread and butter areas, and we know that we can get them filled within a week. So
Wow. So basically, your market is such that they have a need, they have the desire to purchase mobile home with land because that's what you prefer, right? And
yes,
so they're Googling it and you come up because there's not that many people in your market that has a website and caters to it. So you're pretty easy to find. You didn't have to do SEO since you're one of the few.
that's correct. I had not done any SEO. I know I probably should, but it really hasn't been necessary to do it. We're listed on Yellow Pages and some of the other popular places that people go to find us, and we get a lot of word of mouth now at this point. Now that we're a couple years in, get a lot of word of mouth. That's,
Okay.
that's kind of the main main stuff that we're doing.
Because people like moving into your houses and you offer fair terms, or do you offer standard terms, or your terms for the rent to own a little bit easier for people? Where do you find for that in the market?
I think we are easier on the rent to own. The few that are offering them, most down payments tend to be over $5,000 or
That's
so.
hard. Yeah.
It's really hard for lower income people. They don't have that kind of savings, and
Right.
so we try to keep ours under 2,000. Most of the time we're about 1,500
Oh,
down. Yeah, and about 600 a month is about average for us.
so you're getting all the business because if I was in that same position, I'm not, I mean, that's who I go to. You're the go-to guy because it's more affordable.
That's exactly it. And just kind of, Lonnie Scruggs' book really opened up my eyes to, lower income people and kind of the way that they think. But if you
Hmm.
can match their down payment and monthly payment desires, you can really have, whatever else. So, you can make it work for yourself on the back end if you need to. But as long as you can match that down payment and monthly payment, you can have a lot of demand. So.
Can you tell me exactly how these terms are structured for all the new investors and myself, because I haven't delved into this, as well as tenant screening, because I think that might be some issues. Although with buying with land, people have a little bit more autonomy, so it might be a different buyer than the people in mobile home park. But so
Yeah.
yeah, the tenant screening, the financing that you do, the owner financing, and how you set that up. Do you have a lawyer? Do you have a standard um, uh, contract, and how does that work? Because that seems to be a detail that seems really above maybe a lot of people when they're starting out.
Yeah, just kind of answer the screening first. We have two different steps. We have a credit application that's just kind of a standard one-page application, just mainly employment info, references, things like that. Obviously, employment's most important to us, making sure that they make enough money and have been there at least over a year, that kind of stuff. And then we have a background check that we do through a TransUnion Smart Move, which I believe Bigger Pockets recommends that. And so, they can do all that, themselves online after I set up the link. And that's really the two things we use. And it's funny, even if there are things that maybe the background check didn't catch, most people admit to things. Like if they had a felony 15 years ago, they're going to admit that beforehand. So you tend to know what you're getting into with most people. And we really just hadn't had an issue. As long as people, make enough money, that's
Right.
really the thing that's
They're
most important.
working.
Yeah, they make enough money and they're
Right.
not doing anything illegal. That's kind of the main thing. Because everybody has credit issues that we deal with. So
Right. And what's your limit on that? I sort of have like if you have one or two, like one thing that's bad, I'm okay with. Two things, I might start getting a little suspicious if you don't make a lot of money. But if they do
Mhm.
make the money, because I do working class neighborhoods, I'm sort of fine because that basically at the end of the day shows they're working every day. They're responsible to that. They could probably make my rent. But like if they have 5 charge-offs or 6 charge-offs, things they just never addressed, I won't take them. Or
Mhm.
I might ask for like 2 months deposit. Do
Mhm.
you have a limit like that you've seen that you've had to pass on, but you know there's something you might work with because for this demographic, it still produced results?
In regards to charge-offs, we pretty much ignore it. It's kind of where we're at right now, and
Okay.
I think the main difference is being rent to own versus rentals. There's
Yes.
more pride of ownership, so people are going to do everything they can to stay in. I mean, we've had a lot of people that have lost jobs, and they'll do everything they can. Whether it's getting family loans or whatever to try to keep the house.
Okay.
As well as keeping it up as well. So I think that's one big benefit of doing the rent to own, just that
Mm-hmm.
pride of ownership.
Yep.
People are going to do whatever it takes to stay in.
People are
So
invested. They put the down payment down.
that's
It's
right.
affordable. It's
Mhm.
$600 a month and they have their own land. It's like, why not fight for it? And
Yeah.
I'm assuming it's warm in the winter and cool in the
Mhm.
summer, right? There's nothing that do they sacrifice being in a manufactured home on land that you do in a house?
Um, most I will say one thing that's good about being in South Carolina is South Carolina has the largest percentage of housing units that are mobile homes. I think it's like 20% or something. In
Mm-hmm.
some of the areas that we invest in, it's well over 50% of the total housing units are mobile homes. So most people have lived in mobile homes at least at some point, so
Mm-hmm.
they're used to them. And really, some of these newer ones, and I'm including newer ones that are 90s models and later, they're pretty good. The heating and air is in pretty good shape. Most of them have central air. You do lose
Right.
a little bit of insulation, but it's it's pretty good. And most people, for their expectations, it's pretty good. So.
Okay, so it's not like a miserable winter. It's fine.
Yeah, we did have snow last Saturday, but that was incredibly weird. But most of the time, yeah, we don't. It really doesn't get too cold here, and summers are hot, but um, yeah, it's not too bad. So
And what are the mechanics of your owner financing deals? I'm so curious. I know people out there are. I don't really know where to start. Where do you start when you're like, I'm going to finance this? Do you go to a lawyer, an accountant to drop the paperwork?
that's something that I'll tell you the way that we're doing it, and then obviously there's some other Dodd-Frank and SAFE Act issues that are out there. So I'm definitely not an attorney, and I know what we're gonna have to do is probably gonna change. It's gonna have to adapt to the market, but
Yes.
what we're doing right now is I guess the first. I'll give you an average deal. That's might be a 15-year term. Our first 10 years on that deal we're selling the home to somebody while they're renting the land from us. And basically, the way that works is at the end of the 10th year, as long as they made all their payments, we agreed to give them the mobile home title. And then that next month, they begin to pay on the land from us in kind of a typical owner financing deal. We do that for a few reasons. It makes it easier to evict. If they rent the land from us in that first 10 years, where kind of we expect to get most of our issues. Um, so we expect to evict.
So can you go into a little bit more detail on the land releasing and having the titles? Is it structured? You are leasing the land from me and living in this home. Like those words, I guess, are included in there. So they're not necessarily tenants in. So they're tenants, but they're not renting the home, or like or the payment comes from the land. Like how is that separation?
Yeah, there's two different payments during that first period of time. There's one for the lot rent and one for the home.
Okay.
And with the lot rent, we tell them that they can use the land like they own it. We don't place any restrictions on them. Most of the time, there's not any restrictions in the neighborhood that they're in, so they like that. They
Hmm.
really there's not too many issues. We'll say that we use the lot rent to help pay their insurance and and property taxes, and that kind of helps ease over that as well. Um, yeah, that's kind of the way that we've done it so far. It kind of, I don't know. I don't want to say it gets us around, the safe act stuff, because I don't believe it does. But I think I don't know. It makes it tougher for us to trying to figure out the right words to use. Makes it a little bit.
What is the SAFE Act, and how is that impacting people who are like, does this affect all investors?
It's
Or is it
really
because you're owner financing and
it's
that's why?
kind of owner financing.
Okay.
Is where you need a mortgage originator, and all this really still
Okay.
hasn't been done out. It's still pretty new legislation, and then it gets more tricky in these rent-to-own areas. So I guess we're all going to be kind of learning and kind of adjusting to
Oh,
what we need to do.
because there are predatory lenders,
Yeah,
right?
and they're
And
predatory.
now are you lumped into it as a small one-off and you're not a huge institution, or do they exempt you because the amount of sales and financing you do is so small? Like I would think there'd be like, you're not a bank that did this systematically to hundreds of thousands of people. It's like I have a private owner financing deal with another private individual.
Mhm. Uh, I believe there's a like if you have 5 transactions or less in a year, then you're exempt.
Okay.
For us, we're a little bit above it, but not a lot above it. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's still a lot to be learned on this. There really hasn't been any lawsuits or anything, at least that I'm aware of.
Right.
Everyone's still trying to learn and trying to navigate and figure out the best way to go. So
So
I think the rent to own is still going to be lucrative. I think it's just kind of a matter of figuring out the best way to go.
So in the first
Uh,
10 years, if they're paying $600,
mhm,
say, 300's lot and 300
mhm.
is the rent, but they're doing
That's
rent to own.
that's correct.
What happens if they pay 450? Like, does the 300 go to the lot and then the 150 goes to the housing, but they're late? Or like, is there a structure of priority, and or is that not really an issue?
Um, if they pay, well, let's say if they pay more than 600, then they can pay off the home faster.
Okay.
So they, 700 or whatever, they pay it off that much faster. If they pay less, typically we don't accept partial payments. We will work with people on payment schedules sometimes, which is something that I initially did not recommend, but I've kind of come around to it a little bit. If you can, if you have enough late fees in there to where it's worth your while as the investor, and you can help your current tenant buyers stay in there. I think there's some good that can be had. Um, so
Okay. So we sort of thank you for all of this because it really does shine just more light on it that you can't always get reading a magazine article. They don't always tell you like those first steps. So can you tell me a little bit about financing? Some was cash, some was like you had access to a partner. So what are the traditional ways that haven't worked for you, and what did you move to as far as financing these deals?
sure. Traditional bank financing with these mobile home deals in my area has been very difficult. So we've gotten creative. We've assumed a couple loans in the past. We've gotten under financing on a couple deals. The vast majority has been personal lines of credit and personal loans that both my dad and I have taken out.
Uh-huh.
Mostly on my dad. My dad's, he's in his 50s. He makes good money and he's got
Hmm.
excellent credit. So he's kind of an ideal person, an ideal partner to have to be able to kind of access these lines of credit. And that's been a good bit. We've recently got a hard money loan, which is a little interesting. So we're paying 15% interest and all that to refinance several of our properties, and that actually should work well for us. And I'll probably be writing a blog post about it soon, but yeah, for now that's kind of worked well, and that's kind of an option that we're looking at to refinance a bunch of our properties. Just put mortgages on them where we previously just had lines of credit just to make the purchases. So kind
So
of
the
help
hard
pay them.
I'm sorry, the hard money lenders, are they how long are their loan terms when they refinance your home?
Yeah, and just to kind of throw this out there, very few are willing to do mobile homes as well. This is
Right.
just the specialty guy that I found out of Charleston, and they're they were willing to go to 5 years. I think that was kind of
Right.
unusual for them.
I've seen
Um,
that.
yeah, yeah. So with 5 years, it allowed us enough term length to where we could do well with it. Yeah, most aren't willing to do it. It's just it takes a lot of searching. I've done over the past few years, I've done or made a lot of phone calls just to banks. Like I'll make a list of 50 banks
Yeah.
and credit unions, and that's kind of a good way to go just to see if they'll make the loans. We have had one refinance with a credit union. Um, that's all they were willing to do though was one. So it's a battle. I mean, even I'm 37 units in, it's still a battle every day to find money. So
Wow.
um, yeah, yeah. I thought it would have gotten a lot easier by this point, but I don't know. It's just kind of the way I guess where we're at. So
So many transactions did you start with a year? And I mean, like, you're up to 37 units. So it's just really, you're doing this every month? I guess you're doing it full time, so it makes sense, but
yeah, it's I guess like we just bought a package of 13 units from
okay.
investors. That was kind of that's kind of inflating our numbers a little bit too. But yeah, I bought a lot of 2 unit properties and that kind of stuff. We really bought the majority of our properties since 2013. So really just kind of going a little bit faster and taking the business more seriously and being focused.
Yeah.
We kind of veered into looking at mobile home parks for a period of about 6 months, and we're kind of planning to go that way and had one under contract, and the financing didn't work. But after that, it kind of told me about focus that we had a good thing going with our mobile homes with land, and really just need to focus on doing that. And
What's your end goal? Do you have an end goal? There's like a certain
my big
number you're trying to hit?
my biggest goal was getting to this point where I could do it full time. And then I kind of set number of units I'd like to get to over every 6 months and 12 months. As far as an end goal, it's really buying as many as I can until it becomes too management intensive. It takes up too much of my time. Of course, I would like to hire an employee within the next couple of years as well to kind of help us out, but I really don't have one. I kind of I like what we're doing. I feel like we're making a difference for people. So it's just we'll just keep doing what we're doing.
Wow. So just basically until it's too much. You and an
I
employee
think
can't do
so.
it. Then that's it. When it's too much of your daytime where it's not enjoyable because your time commitment is so full, that's when you'll
Exactly.
sort of stop and figure out what's the next thing to do.
That's exactly it. That's
That
exactly
sounds
it. So,
amazing. This is such a great story for people. If I lived like you're so motivating. I honestly will look into mobile home investing in my community and see what's happening. But can you tell us about any resistance you faced, I guess, or stigma when you started talking about this? Because I can imagine you getting like someone looking at you crazy when you say mobile home, but then again, you have more units and more rentals than they do. But they're looking at you like you're doing something wrong because you went into that type of neighborhood. Can you tell me anything about that you've experienced? I just want to hear, what's it like on the mobile home end versus working class neighborhood end.
yeah, there's a lot of resistance. I mean, any family or friends you kind of talk to about it,
Yeah.
they look at you really weird. And I guess the best thing is just time and experience and buying more. And now that I'm full time, people, friends and stuff, they kind of see, oh, well, maybe that does work. He wasn't just, crazy or whatever. So a lot of that is just it just takes time. It takes kind of talking to family members just kind of over and over and just telling them your plans and then actually following up and
Yeah.
taking action. Yeah, it's hard. I mean, that's one of the good things is the stigma is there's not a lot of
Right.
competition, but then you do face it with your friends and family. So I don't know. There's some good and bad to everything, I guess. So
So, what would you tell new investors who are looking at real estate investing? who don't look at mobile homes and look at just single family, would you say you should definitely do mobile homes? It really works, or would you say there's an open world? Maybe diversify. Like, who are the people who are new to investing who should go into mobile home investing? Does it matter where you're geographically are willing to invest in? Might be bigger than what your desires are, or how would you classify that?
Yeah, I guess the main thing is cash flow. That was the main thing that got me interested in mobile homes, just because you're buying for so low and your rents are high enough to where your cash flow is strong for the most part. As long as you're buying right. So that's what got me into the mobile homes. I think that's probably what gets other people into it because there's typically not a lot of appreciation.
Right.
Um, your land's going to appreciate a little bit, but you're kind of hoping that it basically stays flat.
Same in my neighborhoods. You get it for the rents, but not
Right.
necessarily any bump there. And
Right.
what are your all-in costs that you see?
Our goal is to purchase and rehab a mobile home with land for $20,000.
Oh,
That's kind of yeah.
I
That,
love
that's
those numbers. I love those numbers.
that's kind of been our goal. We've actually been doing better than that lately, but that's our goal is kind of and that's kind of arbitrary. That's a lot of that has to do with just where capital is so tight, so you're kind of
Hmm.
having to pick the very best deals. Um,
Would it be possible for someone to say all-in cost 10,000, or are you working with some really crazy houses? Or it is possible, just not as many.
it could be. I'd say if you're in some really rural areas, you can probably, or you could maybe do that. It's just hard. It's hard to find someone that's willing to sacrifice a home and a piece of land for that kind of price. I mean, we see it. We bought it for those kind of numbers or close to it. Actually, this last property package we just bought, we were 6,500 a unit. With 13 units, so that ended up working out okay, or
Hmm.
pretty good. But 10,000 stuff. I mean, unless you're in another market that's just quite a bit lower than the market that we're in, I think that's pretty tough to do. So
Okay, no problem. But 20,000, I mean, it's doubled 10, but it's still affordable for investing, especially when you're saying your all-in costs can be recovered quite, within a few years,
mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
depending on your
absolutely.
down payment. So anything else would you like to tell new investors who are watching this and curious about what you're doing?
Um, yeah, I was just going to add maybe a piece of advice for new investors, and the main thing is just to get started. Just do something. Definitely get educated first, but don't waste a lot of time doing that. Just get started. The best education is actually buying and selling and renting. That's really the best thing you can do. And even I made a ton of mistakes on my first deal, but it's actually turned out to be profitable. So that's one nice thing with mobile homes is your costs are pretty low, and
Right.
you can make a bunch of mistakes and still make money.
I know. And it's a learning ground that's great. And sometimes they're hard mistakes, but at the end of the day, the monetary value is still extremely low for that mistake. And you just can't beat that type of learning um, buffer. It's not a $200,000 mistake. Those are sort of hard to recover from.
Exactly.
20,000, all right, okay, let me regroup. Let's try this again, like next year, not even 5 years, 7 years from now,
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah.
And can you tell us a bit more before we leave about your blogging, what you're doing in the mobile home investing, or anything else you'd like the audience to know to get in touch with you?
Yeah. My website is mobilehomeebook.com, and I've got some books out there. You can find them on Amazon as well as on that website. The Wobbly Boxes was my first book, and I got another book about case studies. I think it's oh my gosh, I'm blanking on the title, but it's Lane Home case studies, I believe, and
I will link to them,
okay.
definitely.
Yeah, and the third one is a course that I had written. It's kind of about
Okay.
what I would do if I could restart my business,
Yes.
from the very beginning. So it's the very first step, what to do, and I don't know. I hope it's helpful. So anyway,
So would you mind doing a giveaway?
yeah, Yeah, absolutely.
Uh, so we're going to do it like this. Underneath the here, we'd like for you to post your comments underneath here on the YouTube video. Why should people use mobile home investing as a strategy for the real estate investing? And it'll be between me and Kenny. We'll figure out what the best response is. And this is going to be open for a couple of weeks, so it gives time for people to come and leave their reviews. But what can we give whoever we think gives like the best comment that really sums up why mobile home investing should be a part of your real estate investment strategy?
Yeah, I mean, I'm willing to give away, in any of those courses or books, or even if you want to have the first, second, and third, with the course and the other books, or even the whole package of them. So it's
Okay, we'll go in order. We'll talk about it later and put the terms of who wins and how many below. So I'm excited about this, and thank you so much, Kenny. We'll have links to his books and his posts, but also that giveaway. Why should you consider investing in mobile? Why should mobile home investing be part of your real estate investment strategy? We're looking for the best answers, and we'll go through all of them and talk it over, and just choose first, second, or third place if you guys want to participate. I hope you do. The more we all help each other and talk about this, the more we really start getting the stigma, which is ridiculous because there should be no stigma about making money legally and helping a community at the same time, but there is. And let's get over that. Let's start making real money at a price that most of us can afford and start building wealth, because even though all of his properties might be under 20,000, at some point you're going to start feeling wealthy, don't you, Aaron? Even though you're not a millionaire, you're like, I feel good. I control my cash flow. I control my life now, right?
absolutely, yeah, absolutely. I always kind of looked at the definition of wealthy was
Right.
how many days you could go without working a job.
Me
And
too.
yeah, okay, so. Yeah, now I'm kind of at this point. I do still have to maintain the business, but it's mostly on my terms. If there's days that my wife and I want to just go somewhere or do whatever, we do that. So I kind of rearrange the business around my schedule for the most part. So
That is amazing. So, thank you very much, Aaron, for coming on the show, and thank everybody else for coming along on this ride. So thank you all. This is Lisa Phillips with AffordableRealEstateInvestments.com. So I give you an honest and practical guide to real estate investing at a price you can afford. Thank you so much, Aaron, and thank you so much for tuning in. Hope this helps. Goodbye.